everyone and Happy New Year! I know I'm a little late in saying that, but this is the first video I put up so far this year, so I felt like it was necessary. This video is going to be fabric haul, and I'm going to show you the materials I purchased last December in the garment district and also talk about what I plan on making with them. I really like doing these videos and I get really excited to make them because I love fabric and I love sharing my ideas and plans with all of you. So I hope you enjoy, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started because I have a lot to go through. The first fabric I got is a silk shantung, and I purchased this from Diana's Fabric, which is the same place I got the silk I used for my pumpkin dress, and that was actually the same type of silk as well. And throughout making that dress, I could just not stop raving about how nice the material was and how easy it was to work with and how beautifully it draped. So I knew when I went in this time that I wanted to get more, except this time I went for a more understated color. It's a reddish copper, and it does have a two-tone sort of effect to it when it's gathered and the light hits it, which I think is really pretty. I purchased 8 yards of it, and I plan on using it for a bustle dress. I don't have a specific design in mind yet, I just know that I want to make one, and I think this would be really perfect for it, especially with that two-tone effect when it's draped. I think that really suits the style. Speaking of bustle dresses, I also got this fabric with one in mind. I'm not sure what type of fabric it is. It frays like polyester taffeta, but it isn't quite as stiff. So I think it'll work really well for the pleats and gathers and draping that bustle dresses are famous for. What really attracted me to this material is the print. I love working with stripes and all the neat things you can do with them, but it's difficult to find apparel weight materials that have interesting striped patterns. So I saw this, I fell in love, and I grabbed up 5 yards of it. The reason I only purchased 5 yards is because it was at the end of the day and I'd kind of gone over budget, but also because I feel like this fabric will be really easy to match. It has black stripes, gray stripes, and burgundy stripes, and then in between is sort of a gray tweed. So I think it'll be really easy to find a fabric that complements it, either some sort of suiting, or I might even have a red cotton sateen in my collection that would match. So I think I'm going to be able to find something fun to pair this with and make something really cool. Sticking with this stripy theme, I also purchased 8 yards of this silk broadcloth. As I said, it's really difficult to find apparel weight striped fabrics that aren't pinstripes, so I just knew I had to take this home with me, and I can't wait to work with it. I think I'm going to use it for an 1880s or an Edwardian seaside costume. They're usually relatively casual traveling gowns, but I have seen some really fun fashion plates that use a lot of bright fabrics and textures and stripes, and I think I can do something inspired by them that's really neat. As far as texture goes, this is really soft and almost sheer, and it drapes beautifully, which I'm sure has to do with it being silk. I wouldn't usually splash out the $8 a yard for it, and I probably wouldn't again unless I saw a print that really caught my eye, but it is a really nice texture, and for regular everyday apparel, I can see why people would gravitate towards it. To go with that fabric, because it isn't very wide, and even though I purchased 8 yards, I'm not sure I'm going to have enough for a complete dress, I purchased 6 yards of cotton sateen in a matching bright red. And I actually bought this material from Joann's. They have it in their sportswear section, and it's actually really nice cotton sateen. And I believe it's regularly $10 a yard, but it was 50% off, and then I had a coupon, so I ended up paying $3 a yard for it, which is an absolute steal and even cheaper than I can get it in the garment district. So I was very happy to find this in the color I needed, and it's such a great price. The next fabric I purchased in the garment district is absolutely beautiful, but I regret buying it. And it's this maroon and gold and black brocade, and the sheen to this and the detail on the print is just stunning. It's one of the prettiest brocades I've seen in a really long time, and I purchased it with plans to turn it into a 1630s evening gown, which is one of my favorite periods of fashion, and I've wanted to make something inspired by it for ages. So on this trip, I went in with a list of materials I would need for it, as well as a couple reference photos of what I was going to model it off of. The reference photo I'm basing this costume off of features a brilliant gold brocade gown, and I wanted to make something almost identical to it. I just loved the depth of the color. Even though orange is one of my least favorite colors, I thought it looked so nice, and I wanted to do something as similar to it as I could. Unfortunately, the store I usually purchase brocade from had closed down, and I knew from my previous trip in when I was looking for a green brocade for an Elizabethan costume that finding them in colors outside of blue and pink and gold was really difficult. So when I saw this and I saw how pretty the sheen was, I decided to go for it, even though it wasn't quite the color I was looking for. And though I don't blame myself because it's a beautiful fabric and I know I will use it someday, I really should have kept looking and came back for it at the end of the day if I didn't see anything else. So I regret not doing that, and as happy as I am to have this pretty fabric in my collection, I would have rather put the money that I spent on this towards something else, because in the next store I found a beautiful gold brocade and I purchased it too. This fabric is a lot closer to what I was looking for. The color is absolutely perfect, and it once again has a really pretty sheen. The base color is a peachy orange tone, then it has a floral pattern over top made from gold and orange threads, and I just adore this fabric. Even though I don't really like orange, there's something so pretty about it, and I think it's perfect for this costume. I also lucked out and found some matching trims on Etsy that complement it really nicely. And luckily I managed to get this fabric for $6 a yard, which is really reasonable for brocade, but it was sort of bittersweet since I wasted money on the other fabric. Regardless, I can't wait to work with this. I can't wait to start on this costume. I think it's going to be awesome, and it's a bit of a dream costume for me, so that's super exciting. To go along with that, I purchased a yard of stretch velvet in this bluish gray color, and I'm going to use this to make a hat that goes with the dress, which is once again modeled off my inspiration picture. Also for the hat, I purchased a variety of 9-inch ostrich feathers in orange and coral and red, which match the brocade I purchased really nicely, and I think are really going to tie it all together. The final fabric I purchased for this costume is a mushroom colored embroidered mesh lace, and this has little sequins on it and a floral pattern, and it's just beautiful. It was also only $4 a yard, which is a steal as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to use this to make sleeves that go underneath the 1630s dress. It was very common to have the sleeves of a chemise visible underneath the dresses at that point in time, and though those would usually be made out of cotton or fine linen, I really like this fabric and I think it's going to give me a similar effect. It'll just be a little bit more elaborate and more sparkly, and I'm always willing to sacrifice a little bit of historical accuracy for that. The next costume I purchased fabric for is a mid-1800s Russian court gown, and I actually learned about these because people were requesting that I make one of the headpieces that is traditionally worn with them, and I don't recall the exact pronunciation right now, so I'm just going to put the name of that headpiece on the screen. When I looked them up, they looked really fun, and I saw that they were sometimes paired with 1830s dresses or 1850s dresses, and it just created a really striking, complete look, which I'm all about. So I decided to add one to my list, and after a little bit of research, I came across a photo that really inspired me that I chose to base this dress off of. So the first fabric I purchased for it is a polyester shantung. I think the technical term for this color is mustard, but I would also describe it as baby poopish. However, it has a really pretty sheen to it, and once the light catches it, it shines almost orange and it just looks stunning. So I think it will be really pretty in the finished costume, but it certainly isn't the most appetizing color. However, the weight of this is really nice. Even though it isn't silk, it's very soft while still having that crispness, so I think it'll be really nice to work with. And I got this for $4 a yard or $5 a yard, and I purchased 8 yards of it. I purchased some lace for this costume as well, specifically for the front of the bodice and the front of the skirt. This is an alencon lace, I believe that's how it's pronounced. So it's made out of pieces of cord that are sewn onto mesh. I love this type of lace because it has a lot of dimension to it. It also provides a lot of embellishment opportunities. Since it already has that texture to it, it doesn't look really jarring if you embellish it further, which is what I plan on doing with this. And this one actually has sequins already on it, which I appreciate since that means I won't have to do quite as much embellishing. To get embellishments, I went to Beads World, and I went to Beads World before any other trim shops, which I now deeply regret. Beads World has a fantastic selection, and their stuff is so beautifully laid out. They really have every different color of bead you can imagine, every different size, and it's just such a great experience looking around in that store that I kind of forget that a lot of things other than seed beads and sequins are overpriced there. However, I realized that after paying $10 for this little tiny bag of sew-on rhinestones, these are in a deep goldish brown color, which I think will complement the lace I purchased really nicely. This little tiny bag, which as I said was $10, has 72 in it. Then I went to a different trim store and found something almost identical, and I got this big bag which has 1,000 pieces in it for $13. That was kind of frustrating, but I am happy that I found these. They're in a really nice orange color, which I think will help tie the costume together. The big difference between these and the other ones I purchased is that the other ones are sew-on, but I am planning on gluing the embellishments onto this skirt. I think that's going to give me a smoother end result. Another purchase from Beads World were these sew-on glass Monties, and these are teeny tiny, and once again I got 72 and it was $11 for this bag. However, these have some more hardware to them. They have the gold sew-on backs as well as being made out of glass, so I wasn't too mad about having to pay that price for them. And I'm going to use some of these on the skirt as well as on the bodice and on the headpiece. My other purchase from Beads World were sequins. They're all variations on white sequins. I got one set of faceted iridescent white ones. Then I got another set that lean a little more purple, and these are flat. And then I got a set of slightly larger white ones, and these are matte, but they're faceted, so they will have a little bit of sheen to them. And I purchased those to use on an 1820s inspired dress that's going to be based on a fashion plate, which features one of the most popular trends from the 1820s, which are padded hems. And if you're unfamiliar with this trend, I will leave a few examples down below. It's quite literally when they used padding to create dimension in skirts, and I'm not sure if I like how it looks, but I think it would be a fun challenge to try and recreate. So that's what I plan on doing. For this project, I purchased 5 yards of silk shantung. I was originally hoping to use silk satin for it because I love the texture and I've never gotten a chance to work with it. Unlike polyester satin, it's quite stiff and has a much more subtle sheen. But even in the garment district, they were asking for around $30 a yard, which was just way outside of my price range, and this silk shantung was only $12. So I decided to go for this instead, and I think it'll do the job. The slub on it is relatively subtle and shouldn't be too noticeable, and I think the stiffness will help create the silhouette that I'm going for. The fashion plate I'm basing this off of has pink detailing, so I picked up 2 yards of cotton sateen in this lovely color for that. I regret this purchase because this is a lot more Pepto-Bismol-y in color than I had thought it was in store, and I don't think I'm going to end up using it because I'm just not a fan of the color. I wouldn't mind having a corset this color, but not a dress. So I think I'm going to keep an eye out for fabrics online or in Joann's that will work for this project that are a little bit of a lighter pink or warmer pink. The final thing I picked up for this costume is a really pretty soft cotton lace. This is a scalloped lace and it has a few pearls and sequins sewn onto it, and it's just very delicate and girly and pretty, and I thought it would suit this dress really nicely. I plan on using it around the neckline and the cuffs of the sleeves, and I think it's going to be a perfect addition. It was also relatively inexpensive since it doesn't have any metallic threads or mesh in it. It was only $2 or $3 a yard, and I was happy to pay that. And I believe I purchased 2.5 yards of it. From the same store, I purchased 4 yards of this ribbon trim. It's not like the jacquard ribbons you purchase at Joann's that feel almost like plastic. It feels very fabric-y and thick, and you can see the embroidery through the bottom side. What I really liked about this was the color, and there's something very rich and historical-ish about it, and I just couldn't resist it, so I picked up 4 yards. I don't have a project in mind for this, but I do think it'll be really easy to match with fabrics in my collection or fabrics that I purchase in the future. I've sort of given myself a rule that if I'm purchasing any random materials and don't have a specific project in mind for them, and I'm not getting enough for a complete project, then I have to make sure they have colors that will lend themselves well to materials I can get in the future. I know on my last trip into the garment district, I purchased 3 striped fabrics that all had green in them, and I could not find anything to match them to save my life. And I honestly don't think I'm ever going to use them because they just have such bizarre colors in them. So I'm trying to stay away from that and keep to neutrals and warm tones that I can easily match. And I think as far as this trip goes, I accomplished that, so I'm happy. I do have a few other random purchases to share, but I did manage to get material for the final costume on my list as well, which is a medieval kirtle and surcoat. I made a couple almost utilitarian medieval costumes last year, and I really enjoyed working on them, just focusing on the fabrics and the silhouette rather than lots of detail. And I wanted to make something like that again. So throughout the entire trip, I kept my eye out for heavyweight suitings that had enough texture and some vibrant colors that would work well for this. Unfortunately, the shop I usually purchase wool suiting from had gone out of business, and every other shop I went into was charging $18 or $20 a yard for the weight of fabrics I was looking for. Luckily, I did find one shop that had a ton of suitings and had a bunch of different weights, and their prices were really pretty reasonable. I ended up getting both of these for $9 or $10 a yard, which I think is awesome for 100% wool suiting of this thickness. The first material I got is purple, and I purchased 5 yards of this, which I'm really hoping will be enough. I just really like the weight of this and I like the color of it. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it's a really deep yet bright purple, and I think it's perfect for this period and for what I have in mind. To go over top of that and serve as a surcoat, I purchased 5.5 yards of this gorgeous gold chevron printed wool. I don't think this is very historically accurate, but I couldn't find anything else in the weight and color I was looking for. And I love the texture of this. Even if it isn't perfect for the period, it's an awesome texture, and I think it's going to look so nice once it's finished. All I have to do is find some sort of matching trim that I can use on the hemline, and then I'm going to get started. Now we're on to the final few purchases, which are also quite random. However, this one was bought with a project in mind. It's just not a project I had on my list. So this is an absolutely stunning light pink / gold brocade. I think it's still called a brocade even though it doesn't have a print to it. It has the same type of texture, and I just fell in love with the shine of this. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it looks pink from certain angles, and then whenever it's draped or gathered, it's this brilliant gold color, and it's just beautiful. It was also relatively inexpensive, so I decided to get 5 yards, and that's enough to use it for a skirt of a Renaissance costume, and I'm hoping I can find a fabric that complements it to use for the bodice and the sleeves. Now, I should have taken a swatch of that fabric and tried to match it to brocades in the next few stores I went into, but instead I just bought one because I thought it was pretty and I thought it would match. I didn't realize how cool toned the other fabric is, and they don't actually match at all. But the fabric I got is this really pretty brocade. It has sort of silvery gold threads into it and a rose pattern in various different shades of pink. It has a slight plasticky sheen to it, but I still really like it. The thing I don't like about this fabric is the store I bought it from, because the people originally quoted me $8 a yard, and I took a swatch and I stapled it to their business cards, and then I came back for it and they would not give it to me for that price. They acted like I was absolutely insane for assuming they would give it to me for any less than $10. Even though the same person had quoted me $8 earlier in the day. So I did end up buying it, and I think I got it for $9 a yard, but I'm just so bitter about the experience that I don't think I would ever purchase anything from them again. And then on top of that, this doesn't match the fabric I purchased it to go with. However, I do think I'm going to be able to use it for a pair of 18th century stays, so it will have a good use in my collection. The next two fabrics are from Joann's, and they consist of a cotton faille. This is a really soft fabric. It feels almost like satin, but it has a little bit more body to it. It also has a gorgeous two-tone quality. So the way the light hits it depends on whether it looks black or light green or dark green, and it's really, really pretty, and I love the weight of it. And to make it even better, it was only $10 a yard, and then it was 60% off, and then I had a coupon. So I think I paid like $7 for the 3 yards of it, which is just awesome. In the same collection, they had mesh, and this might not seem very exciting to you, but this type of mesh is used for lace. So it has a little bit of stretch to it, and it's much stronger than tulle, but the weave is still small and it isn't super stretchy like athletic mesh. And I've been wanting to buy fabric like this in a bright color for a long time so I can make a 1920s gown, and this is the first time I'd seen it in such a variety of colors. It's even really difficult to find the garment district. So I was happy to see it, and I think I paid $2 a yard for it, and I picked up 3 yards, and I plan on using those two fabrics together to make a really cool 1920s dress. Now, I purchased these after going into the garment district, so I don't have any beads or sequins to go with them, but I can definitely pick those up next time I go in. And the final purchase of my garment district trip is probably the most obnoxious and also the most random, and it's this lace. I don't know if I can really call it lace because there's nothing delicate about this fabric, and that's something I associate with lace, but it consists of metallic threads and cords that have been stitched onto this pink mesh. And the end result has so much texture to it and is so sparkly, it just makes me smile. It has borders on each edge and then appliques throughout it, so there's a lot you can work with even though I only purchased 1.5 yards. And I plan on using this to trim the sleeves of something. I have no idea what that something is going to be, but it was one of those fabrics where I saw it and then I kept thinking about it throughout the day. And in the end, I just had to come back for it because I knew I would regret it if I didn't. I also feel like if this fabric was a Disney princess, it would be Rapunzel. And she's my favorite, so I used that as a reason to justify buying it. Anything can become a reason to buy something. And I think that's everything. I can't even put to words how excited I am to work with these materials. I feel like I got a good range of things, so I can make some structured dresses, and some complicated, elaborate dresses, and some simple dresses, and just a big variety of different things, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're interested in seeing any of these projects come to life, then definitely subscribe. I'm sure I'll make videos relating to some of them, and I will also write about the construction process on my blog and on Tumblr and on Instagram, and all of those sites will be linked down below, along with the images that inspired these projects and the names of the shops that I went into. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed and that your new year is off to a good start, and I will talk to all of you very soon.